Hello everyone, this is Glenda Winkleman and welcome back to Creative Grandma. It's Stitch of the Week time, and this week's stitch I'm calling the Millennium stitch. Now this is a special request video from one of my subscribers who wanted to make my Millennium throw. This was a design I made for Red Heart Yarns years and years ago, and it is available as a free pattern on their website if you just go to www.redheart.com. You can search by Millennium Throw or use the LW2015 number. And also, this is the stitch we're learning today for this throw. And if you want the pattern for that pillow, it also tells you here for the coordinating pillow, you can search for pattern WR2016. So this is a pretty easy pattern. It's basically single crochets, chain stitches, and slip stitch. So this is what we're going to learn today. And thank you, Bobby Matella at Coats and Clarks, for allowing me to do this video. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to set this aside again. It's the Millennium Throw, and you can get this free pattern at www.redheart.com. So I have my 3 samples to show you today. The first one I made using the ever popular Red Heart Super Saver stripes, and this is the color Favorite Stripes. It's color number 4965. So this is the results you get, this nice blending of colors, self-striping. So this is my first sample, and if you look, you can see it's just little ridges, little chain stitch loops that form these little, I'm not sure what to call them, just ruffles, just little ruffles on your work. And basically this is all single crochet, and then you're chaining your stitches here. This is the front of your work, and that's the back of your work. So that's our first sample. Our second sample I just made using the classic Red Heart Super Saver white. You can see the design, how it just like ruffles up. So that's the classic white. That's the back. And then for my third sample here, this I used a multicolor, and I used Red Heart Super Saver in color, I got a glare, color number 310 Monet. So very, very beautiful multicolors. So for this pattern, I'm only going to do a swatch. I'm not going to make the whole afghan. Now, if you wanted to start the afghan and work the afghan instead of the swatch, you're going to need a size 10.5K hook. You're going to need 2 different colors of yarn. This one calls for Fiesta Millennium, but I don't believe that's available anymore. So this would basically be a light gray and a dark gray if you wanted to make it exactly like this photograph. I'm going to be using white and gray Super Saver. So to make the afghan, you need to chain 150. If you're working along with me today using the swatch, you're going to need to chain 24. Now this pattern is a multiple of 2 plus 4, so you can make it any size you want. So I'm going to grab my yarn, grab my hook, and I'll be right back to get this simple pattern started. So for my sample swatch, I'm using Gray Heather, Red Heart Super Saver in Gray Heather, number 400 is the color, and I'm using just basic white in the color number 311. So white and Gray Heather. I'm going to start with my Gray Heather and start my chain. So to make your chain, I already tied my yarn on. You're going to yarn over the hook and pull it through that loop I had tied on my hook. This is your first chain, and this does not count as a chain. So yarn over the hook, pull it through that loop, that's your second chain. Yarn over the hook, pull it through the loop, that's your third. Yarn over the hook, pull it through the loop, that's your fourth. So go ahead and repeat in that manner until you get to a total of 24 chains, or you go ahead and, if you're making the afghan, go ahead and chain 150 chains. I'll meet you when I get my sample swatch chain made. I have my 24 chains made, so here's my beginning chain. So to start row one is a very easy row of just single crochet. So we're going to skip our first chain right here, and we're going to insert our hook into that second chain from hook. So insert your hook into that second chain, yarn over the hook, pull it through the chain. You have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. You just made your first single crochet. You're going to find your next chain. It's here. You're going to insert your hook into that next chain, yarn over the hook, pull it through the chain, 2 loops on hook, yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 loops. You just made another single crochet. So what you're going to do for this row is you're just going to work 1 single crochet in each one of your chains across to the end. So just go ahead and work 1 single crochet in each chain across until you get to the end of your chain, and I will meet you at the end of row 1. I'm over at the end of row 1, and this is what your work should look like. You should have, if you're working the swatch with me, when you get row 1 completed, you should have a total of 23 single crochet stitches. If you're working the afghan, you should have a total of 149 single crochet across row 1. So to begin row 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. So for row 2, we single crochet in the back loop of each of the first 3 single crochet stitches. So this is our chain 1, and that never counts as a stitch in this pattern. So that is just giving us height for our stitch. So skip that chain 1 space, and you're going to go into the back loop of this first single crochet stitch. Here's your first single crochet, here's your front loop, here's your back loop. Insert into that back loop only and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet stitch. Here's your single crochet stitch. If you turn it, you can see the front loop and the back loop. Insert into that back loop and work a single crochet. That's 2. Find your next single crochet stitch. Here's your front loop, here's your back loop. Insert into the back loop and work a single crochet. We're getting ready to start our chain 3 loop to form our little scallops, just the little textured chain loops that create this Millennium stitch. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. You're going to bring your hook down, and in front of that last single crochet made, you're going to insert your hook and go down from top to bottom through that front loop, and you're going to slip stitch. Yarn over the hook and pull through all loops on your hook. You just slip stitched your chain 3 and made a loop and connected it with a slip stitch in the front loop of that single crochet, the last one you made. So now we're going to start our repeat. Our repeat will be, you're going to single crochet into the back loop of each of the next 2 single crochet. 1, 2. We're going to chain 3, and then we're going to slip stitch it to the front loop of the last single crochet made. So let's start the repeat. We're going to insert our hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. That's 1. We're going to insert our hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. That's 2. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to come back and we're going to go from top to bottom through the front loop of that last single crochet made, yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on the hook. You just slip stitched your chain 3 to the last single crochet you made, and you can see how it's starting to form our little chain 3 loops on top. Let me show you one more time. We're going to single crochet into the back loop of each of the next 2 single crochet. we're going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the last single crochet we made. So insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet. This is the start of the repeat, and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. You're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. You're going to bring your hook back around to the front of your work, and you're going to go from top to bottom down through the front loop of that last single crochet you made, yarn over the hook, and slip stitch through all loops on your hook. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue working the repeat across until you get to the last 2 stitches. Stop and do not work the last 2 stitches, and I'll be back and show you how to finish row 2. I'm over towards the end of row 2, and this is what your work should look like so far. Your loops are sticking up in the air, and we're over to our last 2 single crochet stitches. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop of each of those last 2 single crochet. So insert your hook into the next stitch in that back loop and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of that last single crochet and work a single crochet. So now I'm going to fasten off my work. I'm going to let my ends hang in the back. I'll weave them in later. Whoops. We're going to turn our work and we're going to join our new color. So turn your work. So for row 3 tells us to join in the back loop of the first single crochet 2 rows below. So that would be row 1. So what we're going to do is you go behind your work and we're working into the back loop. So with row 3, what confuses people is when you try to work in this back loop, there's only 1 loop there. So that is the back loop. There will be no front loop because you already worked in that loop. Your stitch is here, so when you look at your work, you're coming down to row 1. You're going to skip row 2. So what I do to make it easier, I just got to explain this because it says 2 rows below. So if you do what I do and you bend this row down, you're just working. You're not going 2 rows below because you're already there. It just makes it easier if you bend row 2 down out of your way. So just bend row 2 out of your way, insert your hook into that loop, that is the back loop of that first single crochet of row 1. I hope I didn't just confuse you. This is row 2. All we're going to do is bend it down out of the way, and you're inserting your hook into that first single crochet of row 1. The back loop is the only loop that remains. So insert your hook into that loop. I'm going to bring my new color through. I leave about 3 inches and I just work around that raw edge and it weaves my end in. I'm going to pull my new color through and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to insert my hook into that same loop and work a single crochet in that very first stitch. With row 2 bent down, I'm going to go in the very next loop of that next single crochet of row 1 and I'm going to work a single crochet. I'm going to find my next stitch of row 1, and again row 2 is bent forward out of the way. You're working in row 1. Find that next loop of that next stitch and work a single crochet. And that's all you're going to do across row 3 is you're going to go into that loop of that single crochet of row 1 and you're going to work a single crochet in that stitch. So go ahead and work 1 single crochet in each of that loop, that back loop of each single crochet across row 1. So go ahead and repeat that, and I will meet you at the end of the row. I'm over at the end of row 3 and I have 1 stitch to go, but I did want to show you that sometimes when you're over here at the end, you can see 2 stitches. This is part of the chain 1 where you turned, and this is actually your last stitch, which this stitch curves up. I'm going to pull this one out just to kind of show you. When you get to the end of the row, I have 2 stitches remaining. It will look like 3. You have to make sure you do not go into this thread. So I'm going to single crochet in that next stitch, and then this is my last stitch, and it angles up a little bit, and that might confuse some of these first time crocheters because sometimes when they get to the end they just don't know where to go. Now this I used to call the rainbow bar, or the ending bar of a row. When you see the stitch running across, you know that's the end of your row, but this is kind of upside down, so this is not a stitch. This is not a stitch. This is your last stitch. So insert into that last stitch and work a single crochet. Now if you're working this pattern for the first time, it may benefit you to actually count your stitches. Now if you're doing the swatch, you should have 23 single crochet. If you're working the afghan, you'll have a total of 149 single crochet. So until you get the hang of working that last stitch of the row, when you bend this down, it might be worth counting your stitches, just so you know. Row 3 is the start of the repeat row, and rows 3 through 6 will be your pattern. So the next 2 rows are really simple. They are just single crochet rows working in both loops of the stitch. So to start row 4, we're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our work. You're going to skip the chain 1 that does not count as a stitch, and you're going to go into that first single crochet and work a single crochet under both loops of the hook of the stitch. Insert your hook into the next stitch, and you're going under both loops of the stitch and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the next stitch, making sure you go under both strands and work a single crochet. So go ahead and single crochet in each stitch across. You're going to chain 1, turn your work, and work another row of single crochet. So I will meet you at the end of row 5 when you get your 2 rows of single crochet completed. I'm over to the end of row 5, and this is what your work should look like. I made my single crochet rows, and now we're going to get ready and we're going to repeat row 2 for row 6. So for row 6, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. So we're going to start by single crocheting in the back loop of the first 3 single crochet. Again, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to single crochet in just the back loop of the next 3 single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of that first single crochet and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the next single crochet in the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. We are getting ready to make our chain 3 loop. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to come back and you're going to go into the front loop only of the last single crochet you made, and you're going to slip stitch. Yarn over the hook and pull it through all loops on your hook. You just made your chain 3 loop. We're going to start our repeat. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop of each of the next 2 single crochet. we're going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the front loop of the last single crochet made. So this is the start of our repeat. Insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of this next single crochet and work a single crochet. Chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. You're going to come down and go into the front loop of that last single crochet you made, yarn over the hook and slip stitch through all loops on your hook. That is the end of your repeat. I'll show you one more time. Insert into the back loop of the next single crochet and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the back loop of the next single crochet and work a single crochet. You're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. You're going to come down into the front loop of that last single crochet made and slip stitch, yarn over the hook and through all loops on your hook. You just slip stitched your chain 3 loop to that last single crochet. So that is your repeat. Go ahead and work it across and stop, and do not work the last 2 single crochet. Stop here and I will come back and show you how to end row 6. I'm over at the end of row 6 and I have 2 single crochet remaining, and we're going to go ahead and work 1 single crochet into the back loop of each one of those last 2 single crochet. So insert your hook into the back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. Insert your hook into that back loop of that next single crochet and work a single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. I'm going to leave my ends hang for now. And I did want to tell you, when you're working this pattern, that's my little end sticking there. I'm just going to trim that off. That's from where I work my stitches over the end. When you're working the loop stitch, it's always when the back side of your work is showing. When you turn your work over to the right side, that's when you're going to be pushing it down, and then it'll be on the right side of the work. So when you're actually making the loop stitch, if you're trying to make it on this side and your loop stitches are showing, then you forgot to work a row. So I've done that a couple times when I wasn't paying attention watching TV. So just make sure that when you're doing this loop stitch that it's showing on the wrong side. So you're always working it with the wrong side showing. Okay, so we just finished row 6, and rows 3 through 6 are your repeat pattern, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work row 7, which is the start of the repeat pattern, just to show you one more time how to make the transition of after you make your loops and you change your color. So we just worked that last row, row 6. We're going to turn our work and we're going to begin the pattern again, starting with row 3. Again, row 3, you will be joining in the back loop of the first single crochet 2 rows below. So you're going to be joining in the back loop of this single crochet 2 rows below, which would be row 5. So this is row 6, this is row 5, and we're going to start row 7. So you're going to bend these stitches down. And again, I just want to make it perfectly clear, because when it says the back loop, when you bend this down, there's only 1 loop. So you only have 1 loop to go into. But when that works up, you can see it is the back loop of that stitch 2 rows below. So take row 6 and just bend it down. Just get it right out of your way so row 5 is showing. Insert your hook into that first loop of that first stitch. I'm going to grab my gray. Again, I leave about 3-inch length, and I just pull my new color through, and I work my stitches over this end here. I just hold it right up against there. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to insert my hook into that same beginning stitch in that back loop, and I'm going to work a single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook. Again, keep this bent down. I'm going to insert into that next stitch in that loop, and I'm going to go underneath my strand just to weave that right in, and I'm going to work a single crochet. Insert your hook into that next stitch. You can see it by that loop, and work a single crochet. And you're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across in that back loop of that stitch 2 rows below. And like I said, just bend this down out of your way. Instead of keeping it up here, it makes it harder. It's just easier. Bend that row right out of your way and just go in that next stitch and work your single crochet. So go ahead and work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. I will meet you at the end of the row, right by your last stitch. I'm over towards the end of row 7, and I stopped, and I just wanted to show you another way to try to figure out where these end stitches are, your last stitch if you're a new crocheter, is if you look at my work, these are your last 2 stitches up on row 6. You can see that ending little rainbow bar that goes across, so you know this is your last stitch. So if you just hold these stitches up and look behind them, this is a stitch, and then if you look, here's your last stitch, you know that's your last stitch of the row. Just kind of trying to help you figure out where the end of the row is, because beginners, that's usually where you have the most trouble, the beginning and ending of the row of knowing where to put your hook. So insert into that next loop behind that stitch and work your single crochet, and then your last stitch of the row is right behind this last stitch of row 6. Just look for that loop in the stitch in the row below, insert your hook and work that last single crochet. You're going to chain 1, you're going to turn your work, and you're going to work 2 more rows of single crochet, and then you will repeat this loop stitch in the gray, fasten off, and repeat. So that is the pattern. Your pattern begins on row 3, and you just repeat rows 3 through row 6. And then this was the start of the repeat again, where I showed you how to change colors. So if you're working the afghan, you go ahead and you repeat rows 6 through 10. You're going to repeat rows 3 through 6. And then for rows 11 to 266, you're going to repeat rows 3 through 10 32 more times, and you're going to fasten off at the end of the last row and weave in your ends. But for the sample swatch, you can end your sample swatch on any single crochet row. You can end it on row 3, 4, or 5 if you're just making the sample, but make it large enough that you are comfortable with working the pattern. So again, this pattern is called the Millennium Throw, and it's available on www.redheart.com, and it's pattern number LW2015. And the website, I believe they have the yarn right there available. I know this Millennium isn't available anymore, so you're going to have to choose another gray. Now this is the gray heather. It's the darker of the color, so you'll probably want to get a light gray if you're trying to match this pattern. So thank you everyone for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this stitch of the week, the Millennium stitch, and please go to redheart.com, check out their free patterns. I have a couple more on there that you might like. They're all free to download, so go ahead and check out the free patterns. And as always, thank you for stopping by. Please like, comment, and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Happy crocheting, everyone!